We'll now turn to Ms. Komal Ahmad, founder and CEO of Copia. I hope I got that right. And we'll be hearing from her for just before we then need to take a break to receive the Secretary General. So we are in your hands. Come on.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates and guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm honored to be here before you today to share my personal mission to solve one of the world's dumbest problems, hunger. In order to be educated, the brain needs food, the body needs energy to function, and whether to plow fields, walk to school, nurse a baby, or lead a country, we all need food. Today is the first day of Ramadan. Despite my pangs of hunger for the next 30 days, I have the luxury of knowing that at sunset, I will have food to eat. Unfortunately, that's not the case for millions of others. Most people don't mark their calendar with 30 days where they might be hungry. For hundreds of millions around the world, it's their everyday reality. The sun never sets on their hunger. But this is also why Ramadan is so special to me. It reminds me of the very reason why I started Copia, a company focused on solving the hunger problem through the use of technology. As a first-generation immigrant to the United States from Pakistan, I was always reminded by my parents, don't throw away your food. People are starving in Pakistan. It was a basic and valuable lesson that stayed with me. But after lunch with a homeless veteran in Berkeley, I realized that the problem was larger than that. Hunger is prevalent, not just in the poorest nations in the world, but also in one of the wealthiest, where 50 million Americans don't know where their next meal is coming from, while 365 million pounds of perfectly edible food is wasted every single day. That stark reality is exactly what makes this one of the world's dumbest problems. In a world with so much abundance, so much talent and innovation, so many go without food. Well, how did I get this from one lunch? A few years ago, when I was a student at UC Berkeley, I was walking down the street when I encountered a homeless man begging for food. Something about him compelled me to stop and invite him to join me for lunch. During lunch, he sat across from me after not having eaten in 3 days. Imagine, 3 whole days without food. After several bites, he began his story. His name was John. He had just returned back to the U.S. after serving his country abroad. He had been waiting weeks for his benefits to kick in, and because they hadn't, he had been left on the streets to starve. I couldn't believe that a man who had made the most selfless sacrifice for his country had returned home to face another battle, that of hunger and homelessness. Adding insult to injury, right across the street from where John and I were eating, we watched my university's dining hall throw away thousands of pounds of edible food. This was my first glimpse at the shocking disparity. In that brief moment, I witnessed food being thrown away on one side of the street and people starving on the other side. It was then that I decided I was going to serve my country and the world by fighting to solve hunger. I began by organizing a student-powered food recovery movement that collected excess food from UC Berkeley's dining halls and on-campus events. We then redistributed the food to nearby nonprofits, after-school programs, and shelters. It was a great beginning, but still hugely inefficient. There were days when we had recovered hundreds of delicious meals, called dozens of shelters, but were met with voicemails or requests for no more than 10 to 15 meals. At one point, I found myself actually standing on the side of the road with 475 sandwiches, thinking, gosh, there must be a better way. Why is it so hard to do a good deed? Why is it so hard to do the right thing? And why wasn't donating food easier? My intense frustration in that moment also led to my inspiration. I thought how much more efficient and fluid it could be if we could connect those in need of food with those who have it instantly. After that moment, my team and I were determined to develop technology to address this problem. And today, I sit here as the proud founder and CEO of Copia. Copia is the solution to these problems. Our technology-enabled logistics company recovers and redistributes food and delivers it to feed communities in need in real time. To date, we have recovered over 800,000 pounds of food and have fed over 700,000 people. Now that is also the equivalent of feeding the entire population of Luxembourg. Shout out to Luxembourg. And I'm thrilled to share that we will be achieving our goal of feeding 1 million people by the end of this year, all with food that would have otherwise been thrown away. I founded this company as a way to easily and effectively feed the hungry, save money by lowering disposal and overproduction costs, and reduce global emissions by keeping food out of landfills. Copia allows us all to do good quickly and conveniently. People throw away food all the time because it's the quickest thing to do and because they lack the knowledge, the means, and the incentives to do anything else. We provide the means and access to incentives like tax deductions and the ability to meet corporate social responsibility goals, among dozens of other benefits. Let me give you a recent example of this. Many of you have premier sporting events in your countries. In the United States, the biggest sporting event is the Super Bowl. This past year, San Francisco hosted the Super Bowl, and our partnership enabled us to recover over 14 tons of food, feeding over 23,000 people in just 2 days. And you might be thinking, well, that's just one event. But we've done that volume over 30 different times. I understand that hunger is an age-old problem, but that's partly what makes it ripe candidate for disruption, a total revolution, a 21st century solution. Copia is that disruption. Copia is that revolution. And Copia is that solution. It's time that humanitarianism met modern technology. Here's how it works. When you have extra food left over, you launch the Copia app. You set your pickup location, you tell us how much food you have and when it needs to be picked up by, and then you request a pickup. Our algorithm immediately matches the type and amount of food to the nearest nonprofits that are in need at that day, at that time, along with a driver who will come pick up and drop off the food. As a full circle, we send your photos and testimonials of people you fed, along with data and analytics that help you reduce future overproduction costs. And we provide you documentation to receive the maximum tax deductions for your food donations. And as a technology and logistics business, we can go into any city, anywhere in the world, and just redistribute food, but not without your help. If we want to make this local entity global, we need international cooperation. Solving world hunger, as many of you would expect, does not come without its challenges. Some of these challenges include helping governments accommodate the influx of refugees around the world. I've been approached by a handful of European governments who want to fund the expansion of Copia to their countries to help support the redistribution of food and other resources across the world to help feed the refugees in their countries. We live in a diverse and interconnected world, and the technology that can recover food in Manhattan can one day benefit refugees in Malta. We know that by succeeding in the United States today, we can bring Copia anywhere in the world tomorrow. People always ask me about my personal and professional missions. As I look back on my experience in food recovery, I'm very blessed to say those two missions align. With a long lens, it would be an honor to represent this issue globally, one day as the UN's Special Rapporteur for Food. In this capacity, my goals would include helping every country establish food policy to help eliminate food waste entirely. In the past year, we've seen France and Italy implement a critical policy that makes it illegal for businesses to throw away their food. They have also established tax incentives for businesses who donate their food, successfully removing barriers for food redistribution. If we are going to succeed globally in reducing food waste, then I urge all of you to create similar policies and incentives that make donating food easier. Today, I ask for you to spread awareness of movement like ours, help us connect with global businesses, as well as implement mutually beneficial policies and plans that end food waste and reward redistribution. Let me close with this. Hunger doesn't have a face, a religion, a nationality, or color. It surpasses all geographical bounds. And let's not be fooled. Hunger is not negotiable. It will not resolve itself. It will not go away if we do nothing. So many before us have said that eradicating hunger is impossible. In the words of the late and great Muhammad Ali, impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who prefer to live in a world as it is, instead of using the power they have to change it, improve it, challenge it. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. The impossible should not exist, and it can no longer exist. Hunger and poverty are something that none of us should have to endure. And with Copia leading the way, we can ensure global cooperation, teamwork, and understanding to solve one of the world's dumbest problems. I want to thank you all for your keen leadership, and I welcome your commitment to help making the impossible possible. Your leadership moving forward will help us achieve the goal of eradicating hunger, a goal countless others have found to be unachievable. It has been one of my life's greatest honors to speak here at the United Nations today. I invite you all to join me in reminding the world that impossible is just another word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Komal. I think you all get a sense of where we're going with this forum. This is truly where we begin to do the business of implementation and finding ways in which we can use science, technology, and innovation to do this.